The meeting is now live.
Locally, we take turns chairing the committee of the whole, and tonight is my turn. So bear with me as I work through this. Corporate Officer Maurice, are there any late items?
There's no late item.
Thank you. Need approval of the agenda, folks. Councillor Dowling. Second, Councillor McVeigh. Any additions, deletions? Nothing? Okay, all in favor? Passed. So we have some minutes from March 15th to be adopted this evening. Councillor Quito moves, Councillor Roberts seconds. Any errors or omissions, changes? No? Okay. All in favor? Carried. We okay, Councillor Corporate Officer Maurice, did you get that okay?
Yes, I got that okay. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we'll go right on to delegations. We have 3 delegations this evening, and I want to thank everybody for coming and presenting. Those of you that are doing presentations tonight, it's much appreciated, especially with the challenge of COVID-19 and coming online to do your presentations. I appreciate your patience, and hopefully in the coming months, we will all be in the council chambers safely together again. So that'll be nice. I look forward to that. Yuri Dank, are you ready for your presentation? The first one is Kimberley Edible Gardens and Greenhouse presentation. So Yuri, you go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of the Kimberley Edible Gardens and Greenhouse Society, a nonprofit organization known as KEG. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation to you today. COVID-19 has made us aware of the importance of community gardening in order to provide for ourselves and others in a healthy way. We are passionate about gardening and are willing to share our knowledge with the community. I'm here because KEG is in need of a place to garden. We are hoping to use an underused area of city land to establish a new community garden. We looked at 4 different locations: the existing community garden at Centennial Park, the Wildside location south of the indoor pool, and a portion of the parking lot at Centennial Hall, and an area at McDougall Park. This presentation will give you a better idea of who KEG is, what it does, and how it benefits the community. KEG is focused on using and demonstrating market gardening techniques. It seeks to make gardens that are productive and well cared for and beautiful to look at, while at the same time creating a welcoming environment for anyone who wants to learn and participate. Next picture, please. During the last 2 years, go one back. Sorry about that. During the last 2 years, KEG transformed an area with more than 20 cottonwood stumps into a beautiful vegetable garden. Our group met every Saturday morning from 9:30 till noon. We would have a short meeting and then garden for a couple of hours, sharing tasks, ideas, and knowledge. Organic learning moments were plentiful and reflected what was going on in the garden. Next picture. At the end of last year, we were asked to find a new location. COVID-19 relief benefits to a community garden is substantial. There are many people in the community in need. They are looking for help on how to prepare healthy soil and how to start growing their own food. The garden also offers an important opportunity for safe, healthy social connections to occur outdoors during this time of COVID restrictions and greater social isolation. Next slide. These pictures show the possibilities of transforming an unused ground to a beautiful functional garden. We enjoy demonstrating and using our homemade compost to make rich growing soil. Most of the garden tools and equipment needed are on hand, including glass for a greenhouse, some wood, several growing benches, and potting station. Next slide. KEG's last home, we had 26 members last year. Our door is always open to the community to come and help and learn or buy plants and produce or become a member. KEG is also committed to donate our surplus produce to Healthy Kimberley Food Recovery and the food bank. To start our new garden, we will require fencing, irrigation, greenhouse, and ground fabric. Next slide. We are asking the city to let us use a small piece of McDougall Park to start a new community garden. We see the park as an underused area, and we can help the city making an area of this park productive in a very positive way for the community without direct costs to the city. We welcome visitors to our garden and greenhouse whenever we are present, and we will make it beautiful to look at as people walk by. We would welcome a conversation with the city about the use of all or part of the change room building. Next slide, please. Here is our proposal for a new garden layout. Our estimated costs are based on this layout, and part of demonstrating different growing methods, we will look to incorporate different ways of gardening and manage fruit trees and berry bushes using espalier methods supported along wire grid 6 feet tall. Next slide. This is how the greenhouse with the potting station will look. We have a stockpile of good soil and all sizes of pots and tools, raised bed frames, and growing tables stored away. We could move along on the pictures, please. Well, maybe we didn't get them all. Anyway, I would like to continue on. We had a photo in our presentation that shows what the greenhouse and the potting station will look like. Yeah, there it is. And then in the next frame, we have a financial plan. We have funds to fence and secure the garden area. We will fundraise as we have in the past. We have also applied for a grant funding for an irrigation system, but we can function without it for the first year. We can start with what we have stored away for a new garden. It will also involve 80 to 100 hours of volunteer time to set the garden up. We are asking the city to allow us to garden in this small area at McDougall Park, as outlined earlier. In return, KEG will create and maintain a gardening space with an herb garden, a sitting area for visitors, and small meetings. We have the funds to properly fence the garden area and to get a good start with the garden this year. We are pursuing grant funding from the Community Foundation and CBT. Next slide, please. Lastly, we always welcome donations and help in kind from local business community and the city. We will be reaching out to key local suppliers about sponsoring or discounting the cost of materials. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuri. Excellent presentation. And I'm sure there'll be questions coming here.
Yes.
You can just bear with us and we'll get organized. Councillor McBain, you're first.
Yes, question more for Scott. I assume that the facilities there with the old change room and everything still functions. Has anyone been in there and flushed the toilets and ran anything? Or
I'm not sure, to be
yeah,
honest.
I know it's been a while since it's been used, so.
Yeah. You know, I know that Yori was talking with Chris Murray,
Mhm.
and if that was flagged as not being operational, Chris would have let
Okay.
me know and let Yori know.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would take much to get it going.
It's a really cool idea. They're using an existing building that's just been sitting there. But I was just curious. Thanks.
Chris, you want to make a comment? Chris Mummery?
Oh, Chris is online.
Yeah, certainly I can make a comment, Councillor Oakley. Yeah, we did meet there on site, Yuri and I, and I haven't been in the building for years myself, but all of the water and all of the utilities are still there existing. It would likely take a little bit of fixing up before it would be fully functional, but I think certainly in the summer months it would be functional.
Great, thank you. Councillor Goodwin.
Actually, my question was the same as Councillor McBain's, was just the status of that old washroom area and whether it was usable or not.
Okay. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you. Yuri, I was wondering whether or not you're going to, when you refer to the portable greenhouse, is that the plastic greenhouse that you presently have? Will you be moving that from one stage to the other?
No, not at all. We're actually planning on building a brand new greenhouse that would be 15 by 20 feet. It will be a post and beam structure that is easily demountable, easily movable. It would not be on foundations. It would just be on either on cement pads, or we're hoping to actually have it on the concrete pad that is existing there. That would actually work for us really well.
Thank you. Living up in that area, I think it's a really excellent use of that particular piece of property, because I walk by there always and there's nobody there. So I think it's a wonderful use for that piece.
Mayor McCormick, go ahead, and then Councillor Keith.
Thanks, Daryl. Great presentation, Yuri. Much appreciated. So 15 by 20, what was the size of the old greenhouse? I can relate to that.
Greenhouse was 25 by 40.
Okay. So a little bit.
It was quite large, and we used the space to grow plants that love a hot environment, and we had limited success with that. So we're not really that focused. We're more focused on outdoor gardening to teach people about that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Keto?
Oh, just a comment, Yuri. I really appreciate the design of your greenhouse, and I could just see where you're thinking about placing it, just using that the natural sun, the aspect. So yeah, just a comment that obviously you put a lot of thought into this. Thank you.
We also feel that by being there, we will actually increase our membership in a big way, because I think the people in townsite are really looking for something like this where they can participate. And the model that we had down on Church Street really worked well. Everybody works together, everybody collaborates, and it's just a good social gathering as well as productive.
Mayor McCormick, go ahead.
Thank you. Yuri, can you talk a little bit about your kind of staffing, kind of the principal 3 or 4 people that are involved and expertise and all that kind of good stuff?
Okay, so we are a registered nonprofit society, and with that, I am the president. We have Nola McLaren. She is the treasurer, secretary, and administrator. And we have Michael Stevens. He's actually a horticulturist, so he is a professional gardener, leading us along, which is great. And we have Ingrid Lipa is involved with us. She helps us with organizational matters.
Thank you, Yuri.
Councillor Goodwin?
Yuri, so this is for you and Scott. If we decided that this was a worthy project, would we be looking at a license of occupation, or how would we bring this into effect?
Yeah, if council wishes, staff could draw up a license and bring that back.
Okay.
For council to approve.
Thank you.
Are there any, oh yeah, go ahead, Councillor Dallin.
I'd have to say I'm in favor in principle. I think that this is excellent. Certainly look at the positives of a partnership between the city supporting this and just the positives in general. So thank you.
Yuri, I have a question for you. Just around the other gardens that exist, the ones, the small one that's at Centennial Park, and the larger one that's down at Wild Site. So why are those spaces not viable?
Okay, well, let me address the first one, which is at Centennial Park. It is really the poorest location of them all because of the fact that it has no morning sun. The soil is extremely low quality. It's a lot of gravel there, and I think it's because the city has been storing snow and pushing snow in there for many years. But the biggest problem of all on that location are the gophers. So you can't really grow much without the gophers attacking everything. And once the colonies are a certain size, it's just almost impossible to get rid of them. The location down by the pool, we looked at that, and again, we would be assigned the area outside of the fence area to the south, which again is a snow storage area for the city. And so again, it's gravel. When we looked at the parking lot portion at Centennial Hall, which we would sort of looked at a possibility, again, there is just gravel. You know, it's we would have to probably dig down and replenish something. Whereas at McDougall Park, it's already, there is already soil there. All we have to do is turn the sod over and we can actually add the good soil that we have and we would be away.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think to Nigel's point that it's the thought using that hillside with the good soil and the aspect is perfect with that south facing. And I think those locations you're talking about, I think they're old creek beds too. I think where Kimberley Creek used to come through there and then down along Rotary, it makes sense that it's all gravels because it's this old creek bed. So yeah, I really appreciate the thought you guys put into location.
Mayor McCormick.
So appreciating that some conversations have taken place. I guess my question would be for Scott. Are there any other considerations or outside considerations that we need to be thinking about? And then kind of the follow-on question would be, what would next steps be?
I think staff have covered all the considerations with Yori. We can really get into the weeds here, but
no, just
details have been worked out. So just a license of occupation to come back to council should be fairly easy. I believe we just did one for outside in the Rotary Park. So a quick search and replace, and we'll have that back. If not Monday night, the following regular meeting.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
I have one question for Chris Mummery, if you're still on the line.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Is there anything underground that would be a stop, you know, something that might stop this? I know there was the chlorine line under there to the chlorine shack down by the maple trees where the kids slide in the winter, you know, for the old pool years ago. But is there anything underground that would be potential headache?
No, not that I'm aware of. The concrete apron that they're hoping to utilize a portion of is basically the extent of the pool infrastructure, and the underground utilities and piping all went down the hill a little bit further to the east from that.
Okay, thank you. So any further questions, council? Silence. You asked. So we're going to seek, yes?
Yuri had another comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Yuri.
I would have one question for an occupancy permit. We would enter into an agreement as the Kimberley Edible Gardens and Greenhouse Society with the city. Would it be possible to, do we have to have insurance and that sort of thing? Do we need to address that as well? We don't have a lot of funds. That's the reason why I'm asking.
Okay, I'll get Scott to answer that for you.
Yeah, typically, Yori, we do require insurance. We can point you in the right direction of who gives a good deal on that or what other nonprofits are using.
Okay.
But it is required.
All right.
That's a good one.
Yuri, you might want to add that cost to your application to the Community Foundation for the grant.
Okay, I'll try and get that in there because I'll have to find out what the costs are. Are we still talking about 3 million liability for the city? Is that what it is?
Good question.
Yeah, good question. I think due to inflation, I think it's 5 million now, Yuri.
5 million?
Yeah.
Okay. I will look into that, yeah. So, thank you. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thanks, Yuri. Any other final questions from council? I think you're all done.
For now,
Yes?
could I make a motion that we direct staff to look at a license of occupation with the KEG group?
Second.
So this would be a recommendation.
Recommendation. Yeah.
Committee of the whole. Councillor McBain, seconds. Any other discussion arising? All in favor? Okay, carried. There you go, Yuri. It's
I'd like to thank you all for your considerations. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Have a good evening, Yuri. Thanks for coming. Okay, next we have Darren Close, rental ownership market data. So Darren is going to join us for a presentation on the real estate situation in Kimberley and area. Everybody got the his presentation up?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Darren. Good to see you there off in the corner anyway on the screen. Bear with us and we'll boot Yuri out and put you in his place.
No problem at all.
There we go. Okay.
So
good to see you.
Likewise, and thank you for taking some time to have a conversation with me, and definitely to the staff for helping put this stuff together. And you know, a big part of this really is just some information and a general discussion with you guys with respect to where we are currently in the real estate market. And when I talk about real estate, I'm not talking specifically about home ownership. I'm talking about places to live. So it's rentals, it's the availability, it's the supply and demand of all types of housing. And I sent council an email several weeks back, and I got some replies from some of you, and I really appreciate those and the conversation that extended from those. And a little bit of general information that was sent out a couple of weeks ago regarding this meeting. And the one thing I wanted to apply a little bit of context to is the current sense of panic and desperation in the marketplace. And I've been practicing in real estate for 16 years now here in Kimberley alone. And where we are today was predictable. It's been a trend that we have been seeing pretty steadily for the last 7 or 8 years. The MLS sales data and even the rental property management data that we have in our office, and just me being a landlord and managing my own properties is where I'm getting this context from. COVID has certainly amplified that. And the shift in people's mentality, being able to, you know, work remotely or work from home, has certainly taken that steady, fast-paced trend and just thrown it incredibly out of proportion. And we're sitting in a position now where, you know, I appreciate you know, all the efforts that the city and some of the landowners and developers are making, but we're in a very serious situation right now. I feel, and it's heading in a direction where local affordability will not be achievable. And by that, I mean the prices, the home ownership costs, and even just the cost to rent a place are getting beyond what locals can genuinely afford to pay for reasonable housing. I've seen a couple of cases most recently where I've had a couple of personal property turnovers as far as rentals, and one of those properties turned over for a 25% rent increase, and the other one a 33% rent increase. And that really just brought those sort of properties into what current market levels are. The biggest challenge is not demand. Obviously, our demand has always been strong. It has been very sustainable. The supply is the concern. So the demand has amplified incredibly. and our supply hasn't changed all that dramatically. I know we have a fair amount of stuff in the pipeline with some privately owned lands and infill lands, and I do know that the city does have some lands that potentially could be available. But I really just wanted to pose to you guys and get some questions from you guys as to sort of where you think we are, where you would like to see us, and wondering if there's any opportunity for the city to utilize some of the assets it has in order to bring more tax dollars into the community. As a property owner, I am seeing my costs go up every year. It's water, sewer, and garbage. It's city taxes. My insurance bills are going up. With respect to the rental properties that I have, the cost increases that I see coming from the city alone are far and above what I'm actually allowed to recuperate from any tenant, which makes it very difficult for landlords to maintain an investment property. It becomes a situation that it's a domino effect where the property is no longer reasonable to hold as an investment, so they sell it. And then what ends up happening is a tenant gets displaced because the person that buys it moves into it. We've seen the supply issue has been compounding, and it started with single family and it has increased through apartments and condominiums all over the ski hill. That has an impact, of course, on our long-term rental market, because the majority of what we see on the ski hill now, or a lot of what we're seeing on the ski hill now, is occupied by full-time residences who are owners, reducing the rental stock that's available. And then even some of that rental stock, being utilized for short-term rental use, is depleting that stock as well. So I provided you with some information and would like to follow up on the email that I'd sent out previously, as I never really did get a chance to hear from everybody in response. So I guess I'll put it to council. Like, were there any further comments? Were there any questions regarding the data and the information that I've supplied and just the current state of our market?
Council, questions, comments? Councillor Keto?
Just a comment, and I'll throw it out there. This is not a problem that's unique to our community. Certainly not in the problem that's unique to this country. I think with the economy the way it is, people are looking at real estate as being a sure bet, and our whole economy is based on real estate pretty much at the moment. And that means a lot of investors coming in there as well. I don't know what the answers are, Darren. I'm reading all the data. I can see the problem here. I'm also yet to see a community that's come up with any solutions to address the housing affordability crisis that we're facing. But for me, it just speaks to cheap money, bad return on investments on other forms of investment, and a lot of investors' money coming into the housing market, which is inflating prices and inflating rents as well. Do you have any solutions, Darren? Do you see anything there?
Well, supply is the solution. And in the previous notes or email that I'd sent, I'd posed a couple of questions regarding some city-owned, potential city-owned land being released. And I know that I've talked to a few of you in the past about some properties that have been available in the past and just were never sold and are no longer marketable, and they could provide some opportunity to provide new housing, which will increase the stock of resale housing, which in turn will it will allow more opportunity for a first-time buyer or a new home buyer or a young family to at least get get an opportunity to get into the marketplace.
Good one.
Supply is the concern.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
Darren, I think one of the responses I made to that previous email was there's an awful lot of land in Kimberley that is designated as future housing. Mm-hmm. And the large majority of it is in private hands. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me there's a market failure there, that it's not being developed. And I would propose that if the city has some lands, I would try to make that land available for affordable housing, perhaps non-market housing, in the hopes that the privately held lands could be made available for market housing, for single-family dwellings or apartment buildings or whatever. Do you have any ideas about how to stimulate those private owners to get things going?
I mean, other than similar conversations that we're having like this, no, I don't. And I mean, I'm coming to you guys, merely just with respect to the assets that you're in control of. There are obviously numerous parcels of land that are owned by private parties, all with private interests. Some of them are for the development, some of them are for holding, some of them have various reasons why they haven't been developed. But an example of something that I've always looked at to you in the past, Kent, is all of the residential land that kind of sits up and around the golf course. Kimberley is a world-renowned golf destination, but it's probably the only one you can't own a house on a golf course on.
Yeah, but if I could just respond, but the kinds of houses you're going to get built on that golf course are not going to be affordable to anyone in town. I mean, that's not going to be a solution to the affordability crisis that we have.
No, but it will help, because that will provide transition housing, and that will provide step up, which will increase the availability of those lesser homes and at lesser market values.
Or it will just bring a lot more wealthy people into Kimberley, snapping up those homes.
Councilor McBain?
Yeah, I guess kind of piggybacking on Kent's points there, I'm a little bit concerned, and Darren, you kind of alluded to it. I mean, COVID's brought some, interesting challenges, and opportunities for people. And in particular, it's provided opportunities for people with a lot of money. People from Vancouver, I like watching all the HGTV shows, and when you see all the properties in Vancouver that somebody can sell for $2, $3, $4, $5 million, and come in here. I guess to Ken's point, it doesn't matter what kind of supply we put out there. I mean, you look at the houses that are being built right now with building costs, $600,000-$700,000. This is not going to be the kind of the average Joe folks, that are normally buying older houses around here, maybe working Cranbrook or whatever. It's going to be people that have cash available coming in here. So I'm just not sure how we can control, and I brought this up before, we've made Kimberley a good place to be. We've made it a very desirable place. Like you said, demand is not an issue.
Yeah.
And I don't see that demand going away. What I see is more people with the ability to move easily and use cash. Like Nigel said, even if you had to finance right now, it's cheap, but I don't know how we can control that migration of people who have the means to come in here and snap up the $700,000-$800,000, houses. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I hear what you're saying, and it's a little bit off, sort of off the target of where I was going with that, and it's the trickle down effect. When you look at statistics, 40 to 50% of the property transactions that happen within Kimberley are local. They're resident purchases, and it's a lot of it is it's a transition, it's an upgrade. When somebody purchases their first home, it's their first home. And, most likely it's at that sort of lower level end of the market. When they get ready to move on, they upgrade, which brings their first home back into supply. And if you have a new product available, we're going to see it. We're going to see it a little bit when some of these newer developments happen. And we're seeing it with some of what Ty's doing down at the end of Rotary Drive. There's a lot of locals purchasing those properties, and it's the homes that they're leaving that will be coming back onto the market, that are coming onto the market, which are getting snapped up mainly by locals who are in a competing situation because of that low level supply. It's the higher end supply, and the product availability at the higher end will be purchased primarily by local residents of Kimberley, which will increase obviously the tax benefit to the city of Kimberley, but it will also provide for some opportunities for that mid-range and lower range inventory to be provided to younger and first-time buyers.
Councillor Dowell?
I'd just let Councillor McBain continue on his.
Actually, Mayor McCormick's right after you.
You guys are going. I got a completely unrelated thing, but thanks, Darren.
Okay, so I see far more challenges. I understand that some transition housing will alleviate some of the challenge, but I don't see it as a wholesome entire solution. Simply because when you look at the amount of money laundering on real estate, the amount of foreign investment into our country by people that, you know, like 2 years ago, we were over a third property owned by people that didn't live here, right? Now, a huge portion of those people are selling their houses and coming here and taking up that rental part. And, you know, we're losing out on those pieces, which I think that, you know, in the short term, we can make a little bit of alleviation, but it doesn't solve the bigger picture.
No,
so that's where I see some challenge.
Yeah, for sure there's challenges, and there's no, you know, be all end all solution to the problem, but there are multiple solutions that could come together to provide a little bit of remedy. I'm certainly not implying, you know, that opening up one parcel of land is going to fix the problem, but it's opportunities and being able to see potential in areas and just having, you know, the ability to, you know, to provide that opportunity.
Of course. Mayor McCormick, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess a couple of things. First of all, when we talk about new construction, and everybody's pretty fussed about how costs have been going up on building materials, the fact is the cost of building is the cost of building. There isn't anything anybody in any municipality is going to do that's going to impact the cost of building. So if you want affordability, you need to build smaller. And we've been talking around this table for a long time now about multi-unit residential. Ownership doesn't have to be single family homes. It doesn't have to be brand new homes. And in fact, if you look at transition housing where families start with a starter home and, you know, kind of move through the life cycle, that's something that Kimberley has never really dealt with before. We were a mining town. People would come in here, they'd live in the mining homes. When they left town, a new miner would move in and move into that home that was vacated. And you really didn't get secondary home ownership happening. And we're starting to get secondary home ownership happening now because of the change in the demographic of the community. We have a lot of young families now that are moving to Kimberley, and we haven't seen that, you know, in a while previously. So living smaller, multi-unit residential and rental. And I say rental because if we had a supply of decently priced rental, I'm not even going to use the term affordable because it's a relative term, but if we had a decent supply, it would take the pressure off somebody feeling like they needed to buy something because they can't rent anything for less than $2,000 a month. And oh, by the way, the mortgage, if they can afford the down payment, is less than $2,000 a month. So I guess I'm speaking to the supply challenge that you referred to earlier, Darren.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just supply of single family homes. Quite honestly, I think single family will take care of itself. The migrants moving in from Vancouver or Calgary or Toronto or wherever they're moving from out of the metropolitan areas, they for the most part are going to come here, and given the opportunity, they'll build a place. They've got the money to be able to come in and build something, or they will buy something that needs major renovations and they're going to turn it into something that, you know, that wasn't there. I look at single family, that market will just take care of itself. The rental market,
yeah.
the rental market won't, and neither will multi-unit residential unless we get developers and builders coming in and building that type of product. And we're starting to see some of that. I mean, the work that Tyee is doing right now is exemplary in that area. You know, I think Tyee has been listening to the marketplace and they're responding to it. And I'm hoping that the other builders are doing the same and follow their lead.
Yeah, I'm just going to add, if I could add, Darren, to the just to this entire equation, the focus on the 10 years I've been on council has been to create as clean a city as possible with renewing all of our infrastructure, pipes in the ground, water lines, you know, everything, roads, and the focus has been very strong. And it's actually quite impressive how much work has been done, and it's probably coming back to haunt us with all of this, because people moving to Kimberley are seeing that, you know, Kimberley has a good handle on this, and the renewal is excellent, and the community is not going to fall behind that way. So that adds to this. It definitely, I think it adds to this. I've heard from people that are saying this community is really looking after itself very well. So, and that makes a difference for people.
Agreed, and that's one of the reasons why the demand is ever growing. You know, our demand side of the market, be it the rental market or the ownership market, it's not going anywhere, and it's just going to continue to increase. We're not going to obviously see the same surge that we saw last year, but it will continue to grow. And if you were to eliminate last year, it has been a very steady statistical increase for the last 10 years.
Yeah, Mayor McCormick,
and we have to figure out you know, a solution and find some way to, you know, create places for people to live. Like, the people have to have somewhere to go, or people, you know, who are fortunate enough to already, you know, live here or own property here, they're going to bear the cost of that. You know, it's ever increasing, and, you know, as work continues and costs rise, you know, we're all paying a little bit more, and the more people we can get contributing, then the better off we're all going to be.
Thanks, Darren. I'm just going to ask for the last couple of comments, recognizing the time. And I also, before we move on here, so Mayor McCormick, you're next, and it's your final ticket to speak. And I just wanted to leave a note with Scott. You know, to me, what some pieces that are coming out of this are education, possibilities for workshops as to how to better understand the property you do own, maybe for possibilities for carriage house development, that kind of stuff. We do have an excellent website, and but I have heard from some folks that they find it a challenge when it comes to what exactly can they do with their property. They currently own a property, but they want to maybe put something on there that they can rent out in the backyard or whatever. And we do, you know, support that. So it could be a workshop furthering education as a piece of all of this, you know, to help with all of this for folks. I just want to make that quick comment. So go ahead, Mayor McCormick.
Yeah, so just, you know, I think it's important that we as council and also members of the community understand that this is, you know, if you're going to have a problem, this is probably one of the nicer problems that you're going to have. Not that it's easy to manage, but when we sat here during our budget deliberations and that non-market change contribution came to play, I'll just remind council that it was in the neighborhood of $200,000 this year, which enabled us not to raise taxes by 2 full % on our variable tax rate, thanks to that non-market change. So we do have, you know, some positive aspects of what's happening as well. It's a problem that needs to be managed.
Yes, thank you. Final couple comments, Councillor Goodwin, then Councillor McDonough.
I just want to say, Darren, there are also some issues we need to think about carrying capacity in Kimberley and water supply and just how much we can grow in the long run. I don't think there's anything imminent right now. But looking down the road a little bit, in a very dry, hot summer, by the end of the summer, there isn't a lot of water in Mark Creek anymore. We need to think about those issues as well. So,
of course, yeah.
Thanks. Councillor McBain?
Yeah,
comment?
I was kind of along the same lines. I mean, if what we're talking about right now kind of almost feels like this perpetual growth, like that we need to keep going. And I think there has to be an end point. I guess I had a question for you, Darren. You know, obviously the money right now is really cheap. You know, interest rates are ridiculous. And there's got to be a point coming up here within the next couple of years where, you know, either inflation's going to force the feds to raise rates or whatever. Do you see any slowdown in some of the, like the major, like the bigger markets where, you know, maybe there'll be a trickle down effect, like in demand, I was getting at.
No.
Trickling down to us, not at all.
No, I mean, we see very active. So when you look at markets like Calgary or Vancouver, for example, we have very active markets down there, and a lot of it is investment money coming outside. But the money that comes in is what leaves that market and is looking for smaller communities. You know, less than big city living. They're moving outside of city cores. It's, you know, it's the rural or suburban environment that people are looking for. Our trends, I sit on the board of directors at the BC Real Estate Association, and our trend line for the next 2 or 3 years is very consistent to what we've been seeing so far in 2021. And that's a slow, steady increase in average price and median price points, with increasing demand and a supply that just isn't able to meet those demands. And that's just going to keep pressure on that pricing. Even right now in Kimberley, I will say that we are seeing a bit of a shift in the trend. We are turned and moving in a bit of towards the balanced end of the scale. We're nowhere near it, but we are moving there. But even if our supply and demand levels do balance out, it's not going to impact the prices that we're seeing right now.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
I really appreciate, Darren, you putting this presentation together. All the time you put into this is fascinating. Very interesting data. It's the conversation is interesting, but at the same time scary for me anyway. But I really appreciate you coming in. Are there any further thoughts, Council, or any recommendations, anything that you want to take further?
I think we could be talking about this all.
I know, yeah. I keep thinking about workshops and stuff in the future just to get a handle on this. It might be something in real estate you folks do. I don't know, just for people to understand how the market's running right now.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm not necessarily coming to you from the broker either. Like, you know, I'm a property owner and I'm a resident, and I'm also a landlord in this town. Like, I'm not coming to you specifically as Darren Close, managing broker. I'm just coming to you as Darren Close, property owner who pays my utilities and taxes every year and cuts a check to the city. So.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I think that's we're out of time with that one, Darren. Thank you very much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you. Thanks.
Darren.
Councilor Roberts, we've lost her.
Get her back.
Okay. Okay, so we still have we have a third item this evening, folks. Councilor Roberts, I hope you didn't have if you had a question, we can always email Darren. I know you were wondering at one point there. Thanks. Third item is a presentation from Kimberley Nordic Club. We've got Mark coming in around parking issues and other items. So we'll see if we can get Mark up here. Mark and Dan, I believe.
I'm here, if you can hear me.
Yep. Yeah, hi Mark. Good evening. Hello. Thanks for coming.
Evening. Good evening. Maurice, we're going to split this presentation between myself and Dan Clark. So we'll just let you know, and might be a little transition issues maybe, but we'll give you plenty of notice. So good evening, Mayor McCormick, council and staff. Like I said, my name is Mark Koenig. I am the current president of the Kimberley Nordic Club. This is some background. Over the last couple of years, we made significant changes to our organization, including many new executive board members. We've also hired a general manager, Dan Clark, who will be presenting with me tonight. So on behalf of the Nordic Club, the board of directors, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak and connect with council tonight. We're hopeful the presentation will provide an up-to-date snapshot of the Kimberley Nordic Club and its activities, some context to the existing challenges we've been having with our parking, establish a mechanism to have better communications with the city, but most importantly, to reach out to work collaboratively with the council and the city as we move forward. Next slide, please. The Kimberley Nordic Club recognizes its relationship with the city may be unique to this jurisdiction. The Nordic Club is a nonprofit society officially incorporated in 1988. KNC is a legally documented relationship with the city of Kimberley through the management plan and related agreements signed in 2001 and then again in 2011. Kimberley Nordic is not a private business. It is not a society unto its own. The Nordic Club and the city collaborate around the management of the land and infrastructure at KNC. It's KNC's role as to act as a reliable and conscientious steward of these lands. The management plan and agreement offer some foundation to how KNC and the city's relationship is structured. It also leaves considerable latitude on how we should be collaborating. These gray areas bring us to this presentation tonight. With that, I'd like to introduce our General Manager, Dan Clark, at this time, and I will speak to you again prior to the question session. Dan?
Is Dan, Dan, if you're out there, we're not hearing you. Must be muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, and we have the presentation back.
It's out there somewhere. Here we go. Here it comes.
Perfect.
Okay,
As
I
Mark,
hear you. Yeah.
I'll start again then. As Mark mentioned, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. This is a really important step forward for us. Much like the city of Kimberley, the Kimberley Nordic Club has grown exponentially in the past few years. KNC is the third largest Nordic club in BC and the fourth largest in Canada. And these rankings are driven primarily by the incredible per capita engagement in Kimberley. This is unsurpassed anywhere else in the country. So if it gives you any idea, last year, almost 1 in 5 Kimberley residents were members at KNC. And in recent years, even before COVID hit, there were more youth in Kimberley registered in Nordic programs than in minor hockey or swimming. This popularity is due to 35 kilometers of groomed trails within city limits, modern facilities such as the lodge that we built together with the city in 2012, programs for a wide range of ages from 3 years old right up to 83 years old, and then a wide range of volunteer and staff-based services. So we have myself as a part-time GM, new head coach, groomers, kiosk attendants, and lesson instructors. And so much of the success of the club is a result of countless volunteers for trail and facilities upkeep, as well as all the coaches and coordinators who design the programs for Jackrabbits, Track Attack, school groups, junior racers, master sessions for recreational and competitive skiers. And it's this community that's produced some of the fastest young skiers in BC. So there's been successes at provincial levels, national and international levels. Our very own Kimberley skiers were skiing on the world stage this winter. And KNC is really becoming the hub of Nordic skiing in the Kootenays. So there's courses and camps and races each year that draw many people from surrounding areas. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, we'll go, that's the one. Tonight, we further highlight that increased use at KNC has not been restricted to the winter season. So increasing popularity of the trail system during the spring, summer, and fall are really seeing KNC evolve into a multi-season facility and a regional tourist destination. These trails have become a playground for mountain biking, orienteering, hiking, trail running. And it's the location and connection with the many trails in the nature park and the Alpine Resort that makes this trailhead a desirable start and end point for so many activities. Following the announcement of the Electrify the Mountains grant, KNC executive and staff met with Kimberley Trail Society to discuss coordination of these summer and winter trails on these lands. And this kind of collaboration is a really exciting further step into our relationship with the other stakeholders and stewards of this area, and it will benefit the whole community. Next slide, please. Invariably, as you know, with all these successes, there's also some challenges. And this has been experienced most obviously in issues around parking. So recently we had a survey of members that really highlighted the concerns about parking. And then this winter we had many incidents over parking through the season. And if we look at this historical perspective, you'll see here that the first trails were built nearly 55 years ago at KNC by our members. But then in a short order, proposed condo development threatened the trail access. And that was sort of one of our first worries about access to these trails. Things went along very strongly for many years, and then we entered into the first management plan with the city in 2001. We revised that in 2011, and seems like it's time to come back to that. So that'll be a piece we talk about tonight. The lodge construction was a really highlight for us. And then we also in 2019 had a parking lot expansion that was a great help in dealing with these challenges. All right, next slide, please. Other than parking, there are so many other reasons that could bring us together, reasons that are more celebratory in nature. So there are things like the fact that we're being asked to host races of ever increasing caliber and prestige. So we were slated to host the Western Canadian Championships in 2022 until COVID hit, and that schedule has been pushed back. So we're slated for 2023. But that's one of the biggest races in the country. We should also be celebrating this expansion of trails that ensures more inclusive access and ever expanding use of the trails that really bodes well for the health and wellness in our community. Next slide, please. And as citizens of Kimberley, we are also in this enviable position of having observed the growth in communities like Canmore, or Fernie, or Whistler. And we can use these communities as guides for how we want or we don't want to grow into the future. Also enviable are the already established commitments that we have here in Kimberley that will help us remain focused on our community of lifestyle priorities. So the next portion of this presentation focuses on trail usage data that we've compiled in recent years. And we've invested in compiling a variety of statistics to help us understand our visitation and parking needs. So as this slide demonstrates, during the winter of 2018-2019, we collected data using a Trafix trail counter. And these trail counters report 24-hour data, and we had this between December 2018 all the way to March 2019. And these kind of products are used by a variety of government agencies and research institutions. And that data was pretty compelling. As you can see here, we had nearly 1,900 people per day. And please remember, this was a couple of years ago. So if we had the same trail counter this year, the numbers would probably be even higher. Weekly totals were up to 7,500 people. And we had a staggering nearly 30,000 people in December alone. Over the Christmas holidays. That data might have been a little bit different this year without so many people traveling. Season totals were up to about 75,000 people. So we see here on the bars on the right, those are the Saturday and Sunday. I appreciate those are fairly small, but several years ago already, we had 900 people per day averaging on the weekends. And if we can imagine in non-COVID times, we had an average of 2 people per vehicle. That's 450 cars in the parking lot at KNC every day of the weekend. Tuesday through Friday are quieter, but there's still about 500 people per day. And the trail usage data that we see really starts to show how many people are coming through the gates. You'll see that the average visitation is about 90 people per hour. So there's a lot of turnover of cars through that parking lot. And I'd like to think that this helped to really inform that expansion work that we did in the parking lot in 2019. All right, next slide, please. So during the winter of 2021, we had more issues than ever with parking. And we saw that almost every day of the season, we were at capacity at some point or other through the day. And more often than not, we were over capacity. And that was partly due to the increased pressure of people in the Nordic Club, but also snowshoers going off from the club and up-track skiers that were trying to use all of the sort of the limited parking spots along North Star Drive. And then when the North Star lift shut down at the Kimberley Alpine Resort, it was crazy up there. I think the average number of vehicles we turned away were about 100 cars a day. And that was a challenging time for us. We had numerous complaints through the season from members and neighbors alike. And as a result of some of those initial issues, KNC kiosk staff started a program of data collection. So the staff counted the cars in the parking lot every hour on the hour from 8 a.m. through to 8 p.m. for 2 months. So a slightly different way of collecting data, but it'll show you the kinds of pressure that came to bear in that parking lot. Next slide, please. Now, part of the work that we did this winter is to try to figure out how many sort of legal spots we have in that parking lot. So we completed measurements in February 2021, which was after we had snow pushed back by city crews. So this is a pretty reliable calculation of the space in that lot. We came up with about 2,300 square meters of parking, which equals about 57 legal parking spots if we use the city's maneuvering aisles and parking dimensions. And that space is dramatically undersized for that amount of traffic. If we compare it to the Civic Center, which has about 3,300 meters of parking, cubic or square meters, and the Aquatic Center is even higher, or is higher than the Nordic Club at 2,500 meters. And if we look beyond our community, comparison of the 10 other largest Nordic clubs in Canada, these are Vernon, Prince George, Whitehorse, Kelowna, Ottawa, Kamloops, Fernie, Gatineau, Quebec, and Salmon Arm, shows that the parking capacity at KNC is a quarter to a half of all those other clubs that are similar size. And further research on those clubs shows that about half of them have a secondary parking lot. So that's likely due to the kind of incremental growth that we're seeing here in Kimberley. Next slide, please. I hope you have your glasses on. This is the smallest print and tried to color code this so it's a bit more meaningful. So this is the data that was collected by our kiosk staff. So you see 8 a.m. in the column on the left right through to 8 p.m. You'll see the percentages on the far right. So the dark green is 0 to 25, the light green is 25 to 50, yellow is 50 to 75. And it's really the orange, red, and burgundy data that we're looking at. And what you'll see in this time frame from January 11th to February 7th is that on 27 out of the 28 days that are shown here, we were at capacity or over capacity in that parking lot at some point in the day. And that you might ask, like, how did we get 125 or 150% of the capacity in that lot? And that was only possible by KNC employing extra kiosk staff to largely initially to ensure compliance with all our COVID protocols, which include wearing a mask from car to trail. But it was also to ensure that we could get enough vehicles in there to cope with the pressure of the parking. We also took measures like installing parking lot webcams to help trail users get a better sense of how busy it was up there before they drove up. But what you'll see in this data is we have some days where we were parking up to 90 cars in that parking lot and still turning away others. So we still had complaints coming from neighbors where people were parked down the street or in other lots. We did a lot of education among our members, but none of those measures really could compete with the pressure that we were seeing. So I hope that these data and statistics highlight this need to consider a second parking lot to access the trails at the Kimberley Nordic Center. Next slide, please. I also want to highlight that parking at KNC is not just a winter issue. In collaboration with the Kimberley Trail Society, we've documented that this trailhead at KNC is the busiest in the city over the summer. So this map that I'm showing here is a heat map from Trailforks, which is the most heavily used app by mountain bikers. And the data from this source is used by KTS for planning purposes. So red is the highest number of unique riders starting from a trailhead. And you'll see the most color sort of up in that top right corner of that map, which is the Kimberley Nordic Club trailhead. And the other places there in the bottom right are the Riverside Campground and then Bootleg down in the bottom left. So with that location right within the city, there are many, many riders that are starting and finishing their rides at the Nordic Club. All right, next slide, please. So over the years, there have been many options, both short and long-term, designed to cope with the increased use of these trails. These are difficult discussions that position what can be maybe appearing to be competing agendas. But such is the need for land and for housing, such as in the conversation we've just heard, but there's also a need for land for recreation. We're aware of the possibility and the discussions of using the stadium area for parking. And this is a discussion which has caused the KNC executive considerable angst. We appreciate and understand that the use of the stadium could be considered the easiest of options. But we would like to appeal to the council and city to consider this as an option of last resort. Easy and seductive as it is, as a choice, it would have very significant implications on the KNC, including our ability to host events that lure people to consider Kimberley as a home of choice. And without that stadium area, it would be difficult for us to host summer, winter sports camps. And more importantly, it would be difficult to provide safe skiing instruction and learning for people of all ages, from the 4-year-old jackrabbit right up to the adult masters. Now, I also appreciate that, like other groups that have presented here, we're ultimately stepping into this presentation as a result of some challenge. Having said this, we hope to partner with the city in seeing this as a critical and exciting time of looking toward the future. Kimberley, for many reasons, Nordic skiing included, has become a sought-after destination for people to live and recreate. I've been very thankful to live in Kimberley pretty much every day since we moved here, but especially in the last year. All the people that are moving here to live contribute finances to our success as a community. And by way of example, watching some of these YouTube videos from these meetings, council was just talking in a very positive way about how Kimberley has more kilometers of trails than it does roads. That's a wonderful statistic, and KNC is a big part of that. And these trails and recreational facilities are a huge benefit to the community if the planning includes reliable access and ample parking. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and we'll get the next slide.
You can, if you just want to leave Dan's pretty face up, that's fine. No need to flip back and forth. So again, thank you. In preparation for this meeting tonight, the KNC executive gave considerable thought to options around the parking, as Dan has talked about. We've gone back and forth and over everything we could do. And these considerations include the conversation with the city for land that could suit this purpose. So we appreciate the opportunity tonight to share this with council. However, it's our primary intention tonight to appeal to the city as collaborators, to consider the evolution of the area tenured to Kimberley Nordic Club and other stakeholders collectively. With this in mind, we'd like to respectfully request the following. Could you put up the next slide, please? So our requests are, the council work with KNC and other stakeholder groups to explore and consider the benefits of short and long-term solutions to our parking issues. The second would be that KNC, the Kimberley Trail Society, the City of Kimberley, and council work together to update the management plan and agreement. They seem to go on 10-year intervals from 2001 to 2011, and now we're in 21, so it seems like a really good time and consistent to do that now. And the third is the council and the City of Kimberley consider having a member of your council be included in our executive meetings of the board of directors at KNC. I think that collaboration would go a long way between the understanding of KNC and the city. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we hope the presentation has made clear the current challenges facing KNC. It's the busiest trailhead in Kimberley with more than 75,000 people accessing the trails during the winter and a similar number of walkers, runners, hikers, and bikers in the summer. These trails are one of the most important recreational facilities in Kimberley, and they're essential for the health and wellness of the citizens. This fact has never been more obvious than during the last year with the pandemic. We feel KNC is a gem within a gem of the city of Kimberley, and we come to the city to ask for support in the next stage of our growth. Thank you so much for your consideration and the time tonight. Dan and I will now answer questions any councilors may have.
So before we go on to questions and discussion, Mark and Dan, I just wanted to thank you both for an excellent presentation and for putting your heart and soul with the board of KNC into that. It's much appreciated, all the data, really appreciated having a look at that over the last few days. And also congratulations on a hugely successful Nordic Club. Like, it's unbelievable. It's a huge check mark beside Kimberley to have that. And I just wanted to congratulate you, but also to say you've created a monster. So
Yeah.
Definitely. But,
well,
thank you for that.
Like Mayor McCormick said in the last presentation, our parking issue is a good problem to have because we have people that are using the facility. So it's hopefully something we can work together with the city to figure out.
Yeah. So I'll open it up to comments, questions from council, starting with Councillor McMain.
I was just going to say that the analog between the real estate discussion that we had and this one is just, it's just too ironic to have happen on the same night.
I know.
It was like having the same thing doubled up. Thank you for all the data.
Absolutely.
I think probably after one page, we were probably like, okay, yeah, we get it. You guys have a parking issue, but I really appreciate all of the discussion. I think it's just, I don't know what the solution is to this problem. And I know you guys have proposed a few things, but it seems to me like the more we talk, we and this is kind of going off topic, we really need to get together in some kind of working thing and start focusing on where we want to go as a town. I mean, we have, it's an analog, but we have a competing issue here. If there's land available for a parking lot, which, these guys desperately need, well, that could be land for, potential residential use too. So, the more these discussions start coming up, it's like we almost need to have some kind of like vision retreat or something like that. I mean,
I suggest you go have a beer with Troy Pollock one.
Well, but I'm really getting more of a sense of, we really need to start thinking about this a little bit more broadly.
Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, so again, a very detailed presentation and thank you very much for putting it together. I think I would support in principle working to build a new parking lot below the Nordic area on city-owned land off the hairpin turn. I'd probably go with option B and drive a road in. But that's only in principle because we don't know enough to know if we can even do that, if it would work. I have concerns there might be geotechnical issues with that option. There are traffic flow and safety issues. We don't have the resources financially to do that. There'd have to be funding found and there would have to be a plan for maintenance that doesn't involve a huge increase in the city budget as well. But all those things I think are worth exploring. And so your suggestion that the city commit to having a discussion with you to look into parking solutions, I think is a good one, as are the other two suggestions that you made. So I don't think anything is going the other way anytime soon. I think with the summer use and the adaptive sports that the Electrify the Mountains thing is bringing, there is going to be an increased need for parking up there. And I think if we don't start looking at a bigger solution than jockeying the cars around in a different order now, it won't come soon enough. Now, it's still going to take time, but we'll see. Anyway, that's my thought on this.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you want to respond to that, Dan?
If I may, thank you for that feedback. Partly, I think there are a great many opportunities, and as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, the ability to collaborate and sort of celebrate some of those successes is a great way forward. And there are many possibilities if we look at things like applications for BC Winter Games or Canada Winter Games that may be ways to bring in significant resources to help support some of those bid process. I think, on behalf of KNC, there are great many options where we could start to, look for grant monies that might support some of the development. It's just, the crucial piece is starting into that process of working with the city and collaborating and trying to see if there's a way to dedicate some land. And we're excited by the start of this conversation.
Comments, questions, anybody else? Councilor Dallin?
So the nice things have been said now. And I do agree with Councillor Goodwin that, there's potential that there could be land that we could dedicate to such an endeavor as a parking expansion. I'm glad you touched on the grant application portion. Mark, early on you said that KNC is not a society unto its own. Could you clarify that, please?
I think what we're saying, and I'm gonna let Dan chime in here too, is that we don't act independently. We have to act with the city in collaboration, and therefore, we're somewhat restricted about what we can do in our charter. Dan, you want to add to that? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think partly we're trying to sort of distinguish the fact that we are really connected to those lands, and those lands are managed in collaboration with the city through the management plan and the agreement. So it might be different than a nonprofit that isn't connected to a space in that same way. Does that answer that question?
Absolutely, thank you. I think that this conversation should be looked at in a more annual basis so that we can, have the financial discussions and have a very clear communicative setup. I think it would be just as important as having somebody who was attending your regular meetings. I think that having everybody in on the annual reporting would be very important. Because I think the last thing that I'm aware of us having was the 3-year capital plan from the last agreement 10 years ago. So if we were up to date on your capital plan and just had better communication and understanding as a team.
I agree with city staff in December 2019. And then we were hoping to meet during the summer of 2020, and despite a number of attempts, we haven't been able to make that happen. So when Mark spoke about the lack of a mechanism to stay in contact with the city, that really is what we're speaking to there. It's a desire of ours also, because it's been difficult to be able to open the communication with the city.
Thanks. Mayor McCormick, any comments?
Sure. I guess a couple of things. So I'm kind of thinking out loud here, guys, but we've got the agreement, the management agreement that we have in place today. And I think for if we take a look at how that has been executed over the past while, there have been some shortcomings on both accountability and reporting and, kind of the way we've been interacting, which is exactly what you've been speaking to tonight. I would be reticent to change this agreement in any large way without first making an effort to execute based on what's in that agreement first and foremost. And if there's a specific clause or a specific piece in there that isn't working for whatever reason, then we open the door to negotiating what that specific piece is. That's a whole lot easier and a whole lot more productive than trying to just open up, an agreement that, that exists. And for the most part, if you take a look at it, I'm not sure what we would change in that in any event. The second thing is that establishing a liaison with the city, that's a really easy thing to do. We have liaisons, council liaisons to most of the not-for-profits. There's certainly the larger not-for-profits that we have in town, and establishing one of the councillors to be that liaison with KNC. As I said, it's a very easy thing to do. And the third thing with respect to the parking, that's a completely separate issue in and of itself, and one that I think has taken up the most of the conversation tonight, and one that we would pursue toward a conclusion that makes sense for everybody.
Councilor Quito.
I'm hoping we can collaborate with you guys into the future, but collaboration means give and take. And I'm seeing a lot of expectation from what the city can provide, but I'm a little concerned that we are going to have to look at the layout of the Nordic Centre at some stage. So I'm just wanting everyone to keep an open mind. You've kind of drawn the line in the sand there around the stadium area. All the other options are very, very expensive. I think we just have to have everything on the table when we start the negotiations and we're looking at solutions here.
Yeah, I think that's I'll add to that. I think now it's important for KNC to keep their eye on possible grants, infrastructure grants that KNC as a society may be able to access. And once the lines of communication with the liaison and the city start working a little stronger, then possibly that's the give and take part, right? Like the society may get access to a grant that they can, work with the city to develop some infrastructure of whatever type, parking possibly, who knows? But anyway, I think it's important to, and I spoke to Dan about this the other day, Dan Clark, just to be aware of those things, of that opportunities for the nonprofits. So for your society, and that's the time when you get a chance to pounce on something, then things hopefully will click, and working with the city will start to happen. Then that's the give and take part, right? Like that, because I don't think city taxpayers are going to fund a parking lot. That's not going to happen. They're not going to pay for that. So I think it's, and prior to that, obviously, as the mayor was just speaking about, and as we heard from our city manager, tidying up this agreement and getting some of the information that's missing that we need to have for that, for the city is important, for sure. Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah, I just sort of to add to your comment, there are very few grants you can pursue without having a plan in place first. You can't. If you wait till a grant appears and then try to throw a plan together, you generally don't end up with a very good grant application. So I think there may well be steps along the way that involve funding. If there needs to be a geotechnical assessment, we might need some funding for that, et cetera. But we do need to have a direction. And I think initially the conversation between the city and the Nordic Centre should be about what is the direction going to be. And then once we have a direction, then you can start looking for those sources of funding for all little steps you have to take to get where you want to go.
Councillor Goodwin just spoke as a beautiful liaison opportunity. Councillor Goodwin and the KNC.
Sold.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Good point. Any other comments? Councillor Roberts?
I'd just like to know that somebody knocked on my door and wanted to buy my house. They wanted to move from Rossland because they couldn't find any parking when they went to go skiing.
Scott, was there anything further you wanted to add to this?
Oh, lots to add. I mean, we do need to see the minutes and the financials. Those are supposed to be supplied annually to the city. And if they are being supplied, I'm not sure who they're being supplied to. But also, you know, council's sort of tap dancing around the financial obligations, but existing management agreement, there is no financial obligation. It's very clear in that agreement. So I'd like to see us, both parties follow both sides of the agreement before we go to the effort of assigning a liaison to attend meetings. We'd kind of like to catch up on what's been happening for the last 7 years.
Yeah, fair comment. Anything, Mark or Dan?
Go, Dan.
Yeah, it's certainly, I hear your point for sure. I have been trying to set up meetings, and my main contact has been with Chris, and we haven't been able to set that up. You know, we're over 6 months now of trying to follow up on that December 2019 meeting. So I really hope that this is an opportunity where we can get together and go over all those things.
Good, thanks, Dan. Any other comments?
Yeah, they're supposed to be sent to me. So email works for me.
Okay. Is that all right, Dan?
That's perfectly fine. Yeah, I didn't have that information before. So Chris was the person that contacted me in December 2019, and that's who I've been trying to liaise with since.
All right. Sounds good. Any other questions, comments? Liaison Goodwin, anything you'd like to add?
Well, yeah, the onus is actually on the city to ask for those documents. So if we've been asking and not getting them, then that's on them. And if we haven't been asking, then it's on us. But that's water under the bridge. On we go.
Okay. So no further comments? Okay, thanks you guys. Really appreciate your time tonight. Excellent presentation. Thanks for clarifying the 3 requests at the end there. Much appreciated. So I'm assuming that we will move forward and that there'll be further communication. There's no recommendation coming out of this tonight, so it's just food for thought. Final comment from Councillor Dallin.
Just if, Dan, you don't mind sending the last 10 years of the financials and that to Scott, and then Scott, if you find time in the next million hours that you've got booked, you might be able to just give those in red crayon to us.
Carol had.
Thank you.
I misspoke. The onus is on the society. They are supposed to provide those things annually. Sorry.
Okay.
There's also a thing about the city requesting, but it's in.
Did you hear that, you guys?
Yeah.
Did you catch that? Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Thanks. Anyway, thanks. An excellent presentation. Nordic Club is flying, absolutely flying. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate all the good work. So look forward to chatting with you, Dan, when you walk to school in the mornings at 7 o'clock. We'll catch you up front. Okay.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks,
Yeah. Thanks for taking our time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay. We have a report from our city manager that was sent to us. Receipt. Councillor Keto, Councillor McBain seconds, comments, discussion. Nothing?
Yeah, just a quick comment, if I may. There's a lot of work to do here. Just a lot of work to do and to catch up on. And I think we need to encourage KNC to make that happen as quickly as they can.
Councillor Roberts.
I'd just like to ask Scott, is this land similar to the Crown land situation that is the nature park, where it's Crown land and we are the, we maintain it or we look after it?
Yeah, we've got the license of occupation,
That's the,
and then we have the management agreement with the Nordic Club to manage it on the city.
in the same way that
And the
the
trust.
park operates. Yeah, it's like a license of occupation for the nature park as well.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
and
that-
then we have the Nature Park Society that operates it on our behalf.
yeah, it's a very similar to that.
Like there's the license of occupation and then there's the management agreement.
Yeah.
Separate items.
Fancy, isn't
Right.
it? It's the license.
Yeah.
TSS to someone.
I just wanted to thank Scott for your time. I know you put a lot of time into that report and it's much appreciated. It's triggered I think, a series of events that will in the end be healthy for the city of Kimberley and also the Nordic Club. Hopefully it'll work out. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just like to add, and I think Chris can, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think Nick was up there for the third winter in a row. So I'm listening to requests to rearrange the parking lot to maximize it. So although we haven't been sort of willing and able to meet about this agreement, we are very much in touch with them, boots on the ground up at that parking lot.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, I need to apologize to Scott and Chris and everyone for making that comment in the meeting about who, upon whom the onus is to get those documents. And I misread that. I thought we had to request and we didn't. And it should have been, they all should have been flowing to us annually right from the beginning. Yeah.
And I think that that was duly noted by Corporate Officer Maurice. That's a good one. So, yeah, Councillor Dowell.
I appreciate the report. I found reading through that letter dated April 20th of this year, just it felt so demanding and it created so much friction within me. So I it makes me appreciate your position even more, for me, it instantly creates a little bit of a pushback feeling. And it's, I found that a little challenging.
No doubt. Ditto.
Okay, I think we're done with that. Move adjournment.
I'll call the question and receipt first.
Question receipt. Oh, sorry, the license, yes, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Move adjournment. Councilor Keto, Councilor McBain, seconds, all in favor? Adjourned. Yeah. Got through it all. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. Just things you
Thank you, Maurice.
trouble finding the words for
Return your
times and,
Yeah.
Yes.
Management of expectations.
Yeah, I mean,